Morning. Can you hear me?
We can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'll go log
Good,
into
good copy.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this. I'm glad. I know you've had a long couple weeks, man. So I appreciate you being here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself and get these guys over here.
All right.
Hey, can you guys hear me? I can't hear you. So let me play with my mat.
This is going to be exciting.
Okay, now I can hear you.
See Oscar's cursor going all over this. Here we go. It's 8 o'clock. Oscar, we ready to launch this bad boy?
Hey, Randy, what's going on?
How's it going, guys? Hey, welcome. So welcome to the Randy Doyle podcast, and we are back. Man, it's been a crazy summer. So I'm not as quite as crazy as Oscar's though. And Oscar, how long are you just came back last night? How long were you on the road for? What, 2 weeks?
What's up, man? Yeah, 16 days. 16 days. I was
16
gone.
days. You know, I beat you by one on Air Force One, 17 days. But how long were you on Air Force One?
That was I left July 4th. I got back July 27th, I think it was. So
Jeez.
the whole month of July I was on the road.
Road warrior and a
Yeah,
half.
in a half.
So Becky's in the house. We've got a group of our 5 days going right now. We're having blasts. We did test spots right now, and we're having a good time. So we're going to go and dive into this thing, and it's a pretty exciting topic. It's kind of it's going to be a boring topic for some, and I hope not, but I have a feeling it will be. And sorry, guys, you're going to see my notes that are here live with us, but it's a friend of ours, Ryan from Texas, was here last month, and he shared something about his goal of his goal. He's a Marine, career Marine, and has done a lot. Been to combat, police officer. I won't mention his last name just to protect his identity a little bit, but it was interesting in a conversation, and he mentioned something about his one goal in life was becoming noble, and I thought, tell me about that. And so he started kind of explaining it. He's involved with a group that really pushes this primarily with men, especially with men that have faced stresses. And let me tell you, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be putting it into positions to where you've got to make decisions, and some of them might not be favorable decisions for everybody involved. And a lot of people in your life might not understand them. I'll give you an example of this. Like for 18 months, we had a transition at PNS, and for 18 months, we're in negotiation for everything I'd done for the last 10 years with ATG to figure out, what my long-term involvement was going to be. And a lot of people around me didn't understand that was a very stressful, busy, consuming, doing a lot of things that was abnormal to me, dealing with attorneys, dealing with a big company, trying to be very subjective, pushing people away that were coming after me, which is a good problem to have, but I was trying to be noble with it. I didn't want to go into negotiations and even talk with another company while the brand that has my name on it, while I was negotiating with them. So there's a lot of odd pressures, and friends didn't understand it, colleagues didn't understand it, family didn't understand it, and trying to be noble through all that, I don't know if it was completely possible. And so in some of this, as entrepreneurs, we beat ourselves up a little bit. And so I want to thank Ryan out of Texas for bringing this up. I've really put a lot of thought and a lot of study into this, and I mean it from my heart. Being noble is, all of us are born. None of us are saints. I love that quote. I found that. None of us are saints. We're not born being noble. And throughout our lives, we probably don't even think about it. But what it comes down to is doing what's right and what's wrong. It really does. And I'll get into this and what it means to me. And Oscar, Becky, I'm going to have you guys jump in at any time. But I want to read some quotes. I am a man, not a saint. I don't know who that came from, unfortunately. Ernest Hemingway, which I've got a fondness of. There's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow men. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self. Boy, I think that says so much, because your former self that means that as a man, to me, what that means, when I read that quote a couple weeks ago, I meant that as we change, man, woman, child, is that entrepreneur, is that as we grow and as we prosper, is that our positions for nobility are going to be challenged. I'll give you an example of this, is that when I was starting out in business as a very young person, I didn't believe in a couple of things I sold. It wasn't that it wasn't a good product or a service. I just personally didn't like it. And so eventually, I came to a more stable area in my life to where I didn't have to offer that. And I was so glad to get rid of it. And as I've aged, I get rid of those items real quick, or I don't offer them at all. If I really start looking at them, I'm like, no, I can't do it. I don't do it. So that's an example, one thing. Another one is perfection isn't the path to nobility. Transformation is. So nobility to me is being noble is a transformation of oneself. As you mature, as you learn, as you educate, as you're educated, as you're mentored, as you're coached, and then as you go through struggles, is that we're all flawed in some way, and every single person carries flaws. We're not going to change that, but can we grow past them? And I want to believe that we can. It's just a hard decision. And I think that, is that I think we go through chapters. I've come through in the last, really in the last 8-10 weeks, is that it's a chapter. I'm exiting one chapter and going into another. It's both exciting, frustrating, and exciting. Say that again. I'm not fearful because I know where I'm going. But what the biggest challenge is to keep myself straight and to allow everybody around me to know why I'm doing it and what I'm doing and where it's taking us all, because everybody around me that's close is going to be affected, right? In a very positive way. But let's flip that. If I don't convey that well, it could be misinterpreted. And that way, then your noble comes in question from others. And there's a section down below here as I'm kind of getting harsh on myself on this in the beginning. But then I'm going to put some warnings out to you that you got to be careful of not letting other people affect your nobility, of your wanting to become and changing. You understand your position. Maybe you haven't taken and described it to others, shared it with others, or shown it to others. That's your fault. But don't let people slow your growth and your goals of being noble by chewing you up. And so I'll jump in that at the end. So nobility is not about being untouchable. It's about choosing the higher ground despite your own weaknesses, despite your own ego, despite your own drive, despite your own, your own desire for success. Is that it's not about being untouchable. It's not about being above others. Is being noble, is that I think is facing your weaknesses and what you're not good at. I think about being noble when I've done all this research and I've read so much on it since that one little word was put into my mind. I honestly, I've thought about it for hours a day since that's happened. Why? Nobody has ever said it that one day. And here's the funny thing is that we go back up to Ryan. Ryan was a student and sitting in this one of these chairs. And so it's proof to me that every man, woman, and child can teach you something. My own children, I'm getting taught lessons right now. And some of them are hard pills to swallow, but you better take a hard look and you better swallow those pills and you better make every attempt to make yourself better. And so now I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. So I learned all these things about the different reasons. And here's the nobility comes back to when you're noble is what about your struggles? What's made you do certain things? What makes you tick? It can go all the way back to childhood, right? Man, it'd be real easy for me to blame some of the things that I've struggled with as a man on the way that I was brought up or situations. Those situations made me, good, bad, or indifferent. They made me. And I am so thankful for every one of those struggles. Like I just recently, my grandma died 24 years ago. That was the biggest fear of my life up until the day she died, is losing her, losing one of my children, But up until the time my children came along, my biggest fear was losing her because she was my rock. She was the only thing that got me through. But yet in my life now, I reminded myself that morning when I woke up and I thought about her instantly, is that she still lives on through me. And I owe her the ability to become as noble as I can be in my life. And I think that each one of us need to look back to somebody that's been that rock, even if they're here or not, and own it with them. I'm doing it with Ryan right now, a stranger up until that time. He showed me, he gifted me something while he was here. Each one of you are gifting me something. Every time I come in contact, you're gifting me something. Every single one of you, I'll take a gift from you. And I'll appreciate that gift the rest of my life. It might be a fun story. It might be a smile. It might be a laugh. It might be a tearful moment, but it's going to happen. So here's the thing that I've learned and throughout my life is that I found that every successful and hyper successful person that I've met and come across or even read about is that I've realized that in their life that they've come from various backgrounds and they've struggled with nobility. They've struggled with a lot of people that I actually, my mentors, my coaches, my peers, my colleagues, my students that I really am fond of, is they never intentionally wanted to hurt anybody, but yet unintentionally they did, because the actions that we've had to take aren't understood by all. And I'm not making it a right. It's a wrong. It's a wrong. But we were given at a moment a fork in the road, and we had to make a decision, sometimes instantly, sometimes financially, that could have meant a lot to us. And let's face it, money's not everything. It's easy to say that when you've got things. But I think there's a lot of us that can understand that we've been at a crossroads financially where we had nothing. Literally, we didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. The next gallon of milk was going to come from our kids. We were fearful, stressed out. We didn't know how we were going to make rent. We didn't know how we were going to make the mortgage. We didn't know how we were going to put gas in our vehicle. We didn't know how we were going to pay insurance. We didn't know how we were going to keep the lights on. And we had to make a decision right then and there. Maybe it was an overtime decision. Do I need to take this? I'm going to miss something important. But nobody underneath us, around us, on top of us, partnered with us, is going to understand the difficulty of that unless we open up to them. And even then, maybe they don't. But I have found that there's so many people that were gifted and spoiled, but they still struggled with ability. I found that there's some that were poor and had nothing, and they've still struggled from the same struggles. That many are they're super focused. They still have the same struggles. Some others had addiction issues, like work, ego, success, social media. All these addictions, some were drugs, some were alcohol, some were gambling, some were risk-taking. I think that I've met this, and I think some people are just absolutely addicted to chaos. They just love chaos. They love to cause it. They love to be involved in it. They love to be the victim in it. They love it. They don't care. They love chaos. And Becky and I were talking early this morning, and I think I've got wrapped up in that a couple times in my life. And now I try to stay as far away from it as I can. And I think we've all seen those people, right? Whether it's, Joe's military, right? Is Oscar comes from a military, career, is that fire service career. We've seen people that are simply addicted into chaos. And sometimes their addiction to chaos starts to be our addiction to chaos. And before we know it, is we're the one whispering. And that's, man, you got to get away from that. Hit yourself over the head and run. So talking to men and ladies, I'm not leaving you out. I'm not a lady. I'm 100% a dude, right? I am. And I can only estimate that some of these things you guys feel exactly the same in, right? But I was talking to men I'm really close to that are really successful at many different levels. Some are billionaires, some are millionaires, and some are just happily, gainfully self-employed to where they are. My brother, for instance, I got a brother. People ask him all the time. They said, "What do you do for a living?" He goes, "Oh, I'm independently poor." But he doesn't answer to anybody. He's got a very simple life. Sorry, it's bug season in the mountains, and we got bugs are all over us right now. But I think that's kind of cool for him to recognize, and that's our first. I'm going to go over a number of items, is recognition. Where are you at in your life and your journey of being noble? Are there things that bother you in your life that maybe you're not offering the right service? Maybe you don't feel good about something. Maybe that you're not putting enough into, hey, here's the thing. How's your exercise? How are your eating habits? How are you treating yourself? I found out for a while that I'm addicted to, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like to put it on the edge. And I got in a situation about 4 years ago. I like to go on these solo hikes, these journey hikes. I used to do the Devil's Backbone on Mount Baldy by myself. That's stupid. I mean, it's stupid to go by yourself. But I was young. I never had a problem. If I went up on that Devil's Backbone now with 10 mountaineers, they'd be carrying me across that thing because my comfort level is just not what it used to be, right? But I've also realized about 4 years ago, I went for a solo journey here, and I put myself on some really steep inclines. And on the way down, I got in a bad spot where it's getting dark and I had no way down. And I had to set up a bailout rig, take my rope out for the first time in a while. And I had to rappel down on my bailout rope, my belt. my rigger belt. That hurt. It didn't feel good. It was a little spooky. I lost about $25, $30 worth of gear. But dang, it was exciting, right? It was fun. I've decided I'm not going to ski. I've got a notification on my watch when I'm skiing. And once do I get certain miles per hour, I back off because I still feel I'm 30 and I'm invincible. And my bones are no longer made of concrete and steel. They're a little more chalky than they used to be. And so crashing at 60 miles an hour at my age isn't smart because I want to ski and ride my horse and do adventurous stuff until I don't have a breath left in my lungs. But I've also got to realize that my body's changed, my mind's changed, and I've got responsibilities. So your own recognition of maybe you did wrong, maybe you done people wrong, maybe it wasn't even intentional, and maybe to you it wasn't wrong. Maybe it was ignoring a friend. Maybe it was breaking off friendships. Maybe it wasn't putting enough into children that you've got. Is that, again, is there a right in their eyes for you? No. To them, you did them wrong. You've got to look at it from their standpoint. That's been a real tough thing for me, is looking at it from another person's standpoint. Not so much with my colleagues, because there's a separation of emotion there. It's been harder to do it, and I've done the most damage to myself and the ones I love the most, because I thought they'd just accept it. I had to do something because this was survival. I had to do something because our family needed it. I had to do something because our business needed it. I had to go on that mission because somebody was missing. I had to take and do what was important to me because I thought I had to. But did I really have to? Ask yourself that. Integrity over convenience. Is that service convenient to sell? But you know, that coating you're going to put on that car, the person doesn't take really good care of their car. Maybe, yeah, it's $1,800 coming in, but do they really need to spend $1,800? Could you give them a service that's 4 or 5 or 600 and give it to them once a year instead of making that big $1,800 sale? You only make a $600 sale. You know, we got a gentleman here. He found out that somebody was ill. He gifted them the service. He didn't need to do that. They were financially capable of paying for it. They were in a bad spot and he did what was right. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the decisions that you've got to make. You've got to choose integrity over convenience and profits. Another one is sacrifice for others. There's a time and a place. I'll never forget this. You know, one of my really dear friends is that he's watched my journey and he's admired it and he's backed me. And there's been times I just couldn't put enough into our friendship. And I decided early this summer, I need to spend some time with my friend. I need to make it inconvenience for me, sacrifice that, because he's sacrificed so much for my career and our friendship. And it made me feel good. And it also realized I got to do that more. There's more people I need to do that with. Is that I hate the word busy. You've got to sacrifice that busy for others. But there's also a time that people got to realize there's sacrifices you can't make. There's dates you can't miss. There's appointments you can't miss because you've signed on to whatever journey you signed on to, and you're going to have to carry it through, because on the backside of that, 180 degrees around that is the people you've committed to, and you committed to making those actions happen. And so it's a double-sided sword, and somehow you've got to convey that. You've got to share with people there's two sides of it. Now, the bad side is one side's probably going to get their feelings hurt or get mad. And you've got to decide at that point, is there validity, is there value, and which one is it? And there's times you're going to have to maybe hurt yourself. Maybe you're going to have to hurt yourself financially. And there's times you can't do that. And I hate to say it, if the people aren't going to understand, they don't understand you. But at times also on the flip side of that, there's times, does this really worth it? You got to ask yourself in the long haul, a year from now, is by doing this, is it worth it? And a lot of time, the answer is no. I wish I had a dozen of those moments back to make it a different decision than what I made. I can't. All I can take and do is change myself moving from this point forward and don't repeat those same mistakes. And the only other thing I can do is share these openly, as open as I can possibly be. And that's why we're having this discussion today on the podcast. And so the discipline of daily choices, this is massively important, is that you've got to take, and like before I walked out here, I woke up quite a bit before my wife. And I knew I had a lot of things, a lot of stuff that the interns are here. I had a lot set up. I think they thought they were going to beat me in here. And I already had most of what you guys were going to do set up, right? Because I didn't want them to have to do that. But the last thing I did before I walked out of that house was loving my wife. I wasn't so busy, but there's past times I was. And I could see the hurt in her face. And I don't want to ever do that again. Ever. I can't take those times back where I didn't put her in the number one pole position. Can't do it. But I can do it now. And I can make it up for her. And I can let her know, I'm sorry. That doesn't work. You can only eat shit so much. And honestly, if somebody expects you to do that, they've got a mission. That's to hurt you. And so my wife's loving. She doesn't do that. She appreciates those little kisses. She knows I had a lot going on today. She knows all of you here. And the fact I took time to go up, hug on her, and give her a nice kiss, tell her how much I love her, and to have a good day, that was special, and it was more special to me than it was to her. I like that I did that. I like that I took the time to go kiss him. I like that I recognized that I had to do it. And it wasn't have to. I had to do it for me, not for her. That's a transition. That's growth. And I've always been loving to her, but I can't love her enough. And maybe it's because I've got fewer years in front of me than in back of me. Maybe that's part of it. But if I can encourage, you're young. You're young. Don't ever look at it that way. And you love somebody, you love them full-heartedly. And don't ever, when you decide that you love the next person, I know you, and I'm looking at somebody right now, and she's a remarkable young lady, and she lost somebody dear to her, died. That next person, you take that time every day from this age forward to kiss him and to love on him. Sorry. I wish I had the 10,000 kisses that I didn't take the time to give her back. So you know what? I'm going to gift myself, not her, 20,000 kisses extra moving ahead, because I'm going to make those kisses up. I'm going to make that passion up, because there's a time and day that you say to goodbye. There's your first day of doing something, and there's your last day. Whether it's your career, for me, my passions, it's skiing, it's mountaineering, search and rescue, all these things. My little stupid part in the military, my little itty bitty meal team 6, that's as close as I'm going to get, is having a Coca-Cola and a Big Mac in my special operations vest. But the little bit of hope, the little bit of training, and the little bit of guidance I've been able to give those guardsmen going out on mission, either domestically in search and rescue or back when the wars were going, I'm proud of those moments. It might be insignificant to others, but when we had a team come back with 0 KIAs, and I played a little 80-80 time, it might not be, I'm not a fighter pilot. I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm not Delta. I'll never be, never would have been, never could have been that way to badass. But the little part I played in that military as a States Guardsman, as a Title 32 soldier, I keep dear to my heart. It's a little itty bitty part, because somewhere down the line, someone that I trained, someone that I played a little itty bitty part in, maybe that kept them alive. Maybe it kept them from twisting an ankle. Maybe it kept them from getting a boo-boo. Maybe it kept them there's back when we were operating the ranges before they went off to Afghanistan or Iraq. Maybe it kept their shoulder from getting so sore when they had to put rounds in the real life downrange, and they weren't so beat up from doing so. And if anybody wants to ever judge me on that, judge me. I'm proud of it. You can't take that away from my heart. You can't. The core truth: a flawed man or woman does not become noble by erasing their weaknesses. They become noble by admitting their weaknesses. They become noble by facing their weaknesses. Oscar asked me, why do I get emotional now? Why am I so comfortably emotional? because I finally can. I can finally let loose. My whole life, I had to play it tough. I had to be the man of the house at a very young age. I had a brother I loved dearly, special soul, but he had an addiction problem. He's my big brother, and I love him. I idolize him, even with his faults. Randy, even Rick, my brother, Jerry, my brother, we all have faults, right? But we were separated somewhat because of our family dynamics. And I had to be the man of the house at a really young age. And it was not an easy thing because I had my own struggles going on, right? But yet I had these two amazing women, my mom and my grandma, that gave me love, tenderness. My mom, there's times that she would get physical and she'd smack me. Did I ever think of it as abuse? Never. I thought of it an attitude adjustment. It was well deserved and much more. My grandma was the one I was terrified from. She called BJ, our neighbor, World War II CB, Navy CB, combat action like you wouldn't believe in the South Pacific. He was a craftsman. He was a builder. And I went over one time and I got disrespectful with my mom and grandma. And BJ made a wood paddle and I helped him make it. And he swatted me 3 times. First time he said, I don't want to ever do this again. Just a plain paddle, shaped like a paddle with a handle. Next time, about a year later, I got out of hand again. This time I drilled holes in it. So the air went through it a little easier. He paddled me again and he told me, you don't want a third time. The third time we drilled more holes. And that third time, that grown ass man, put both hands on that handle and he never paddled me again. He handed it back to me. My tears in my eyes, my pride, trying not to cry in front of a man that I really respected. And he goes, am I ever going to see this paddle again? I said, no, sir. And he never saw that paddle again. You know why? I couldn't sit on my butt for a couple of days. And you know what? I'm still thankful for my grandma calling BJ up and having him make that paddle and swat me because it taught me I better ever never do that again. And I have. I have treated my kids and my wife on ways that wasn't right. I can't change those things. I've treated employees. I've treated students. I've treated Becky. I've treated Oscar. I'm a flawed person, but I'm a flawed man facing his own weaknesses. That's all you can do. You can't do anymore. And am I embarrassed to come out with this shit? Fuck no. I wish somebody would have told me this 20 years ago. And I wish BJ Hayden wanted to use that paddle a few more times. I wish BJ Hayden was still alive when I was 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. I got it now, BJ. God rest your soul. I got it now. But I wish he would have been around, even at 50, to pat maybe over the head. Because I said it the other day. Somebody asked me, Rennie, how's your walk with God? And Becky laughed. She said she cracked up when I said this on the podcast, or on the discussion last night. Man, I walk hand in hand with the guy. But he takes and he releases my left hand. He removes his right hand, and 3/4 of the time, he's smacking me on the back of the head because he's so frustrated with me. But you know what? He knows I'm listening more than I ever have. And my hopes by sharing all this and getting all mopey is that somebody is going to listen to this that's young. And you're going to realize, don't do this shit. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Joe, you said that. Slow down. We're not in a rush. Slow down. Life's not in that big of a race. If your customers push you to the fact that you are stressed out, that's the wrong customer. Don't let them dictate your life and the speed of your life by pushing you. Don't let me or anybody else push. Now, there's urgency on things. Let's give the 180 of that thing. There's things you got to do for a customer that you got to do. And your family, your colleagues, and your staff have got to understand that. And if they don't, it's time to talk. And if they still don't understand, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I will tell you this. My wife, my long-term relationships that mean a lot. You're going to find this out. I've got friends I don't talk to too often anymore, but they're still my friends and I still adore them. I've got 3, maybe 4 friends outside of my wife and my kids that I love. I'm a slow sayer of I love you. But if I say it to you, it means it. And it takes years for me to get there. I hate it when I watch reality TV shows. Love you. No, you don't. You like them. You admire them. You might even trust them if you're on Survival Island because you spent 14 days, behind the damn camera, right? But you don't love them. Now, I love people, but am I in love with you? I love my friend Rich. I love him. He's this man, he walks on water. This man, I know he does wrong. We've canceled each other, right? If anybody's going to give it to me straight, it's Rich. But he's also going to do it with a loving heart. I'm going to give it to anybody straight, it's Rich. And here's the thing. He would be deployed all over the world during his career. We could be playing a chess game and come right back to that conversation of chess game wherever he was in the world. I can be anywhere in the world for 10 years without him. And that man, I will never stop loving, and he'll never stop loving me. How many of those people do you have? You think when you're young, you have a lot. But I'm good. She's shaking her head no. That's good. You can admire and have a lot of close friends and treat them right. But you've got to realize who you really love. And you put everything you got in them. The other ones you've got to explain. I don't even have to explain this to Rich. When I go off the radar, he knows. When he off the radar, I don't know where he was in the world. Rich disappeared for like 3 months during the Iraqi war. Like none of us could find him. We're freaking. And it's a story for another story because I'm not sure if Rich wants me to share it. But it was cool. The outcome was cool. He came to our door. I was like, I was mad at you. I was mad because we didn't hear from him. But he's military, and I kind of understood what happened right after he told me. I was like, but how do you fall in? He's one of those guys. He's like, we both kind of have our Midas touch in the same way. If you guys don't know what that is, you're young, you know what the Midas touch is. Kind of everything turns to gold. Listen, when people I say that, Midas touch or everything turns to gold, it doesn't mean it's going to be billions or billions or whatever. It could be your lifestyle. It could be the love of your life. It could be the job that you've got. It could be the company that you got. It could be the passions that you have. Gold is your opinion. And I can tell you this, gold is money. I don't care what anybody says. Money, I've cried and got emotional like I have today on the seat of a BMX bicycle. And I've cried in the seat of a brand new C8 Corvette. It's a lot better to cry in the seat of a nice car than on the seat of a bicycle. But what did that cost you? If it cost me the loved ones I love so much and they love me back, that's or the ones I respect and they respect me back. Because let me tell you, we talked about this. Joe, I'm looking at you. We've all seen this fire service all your years, in fire service. We've seen those that use our backs as stabbing boards to climb up, crampons and all, knives in hands, crampons in feet, right? They call it themselves your friends. But at some point, you start noticing some things that, you got sore spots. And it's because they're going to take you down as fast or faster than anybody in the world, right? Spot those as fast as you can. Okay. Now you're dealing with a flawed person. But here's the thing. We talked about this yesterday. I even want those people to be successful. Key reason why? They'll leave you alone. They'll leave me alone. Okay. Second reason why is I want them to be successful. Go make success. Become happy. Is again, most of those are addicted to the chaos. Ask yourself this, is the chaos internal? Are you causing some of that chaos because maybe you brought that on, or maybe just you're in somebody's glide path and they like the chaos and they brought you in on it. The next thing you know is you're chewing on the same chaos all the time. You got it. If you're a friend, especially if it's a friend that you say, I love Rich. Now Rich is so loving. I can't say this honestly. I just say, he does. When I say it to him, everyone, we don't get all mushy all the time. But every once in a while, I'll say, man, I love you, man. He goes, I love you too, dude. We don't make a habit of it. We're macho. And he's a lot more macho. I mean, fucker flies helicopters, right? He's just a bad. And man, I've flown with a lot of people, right? I'm the longest student pilot in their history of flying, right? And I've gotten hours. I've flown with him, not hours, but minutes, in his helicopter. But damn, he's a talented pilot. I mean, he's a manly man. He's good looking, half Italian, Puerto Rican. My grandma, okay, I got to tell this story. And this is a little improper, but this will tell you how my grandma was. Italian grandma, Italian, she's Italian, Scottish, German, all these different things, right? Her husband, my grandpa, is 100% Italian, just 100%. Rich looks a lot like my grandpa. So my grandma is dying. Rich is going off to war. Okay, this is in 2001. So Rich is going off to some place around the world, right? 9/11, we got all kinds of warning. I don't know where Rich is going. I don't know if Rich knew at that time where he's going, but he's going somewhere. It might have even just been Korea. I'm not sure. But he's there knowing he's going to say goodbye to my grandma because they really loved each other. And so he goes, Nana, hey, before I take off, is there anything I can do? She thinks for a minute and she looks over, and Becky's going to crack up at this. Diane's going to crack up at this. Anybody that knows my grandma growing up is going to crack up at this. She looks out of her side right at me, and I went, oh, shit. Because when she side-eyed you, she's going to speak her mind. She goes, Rich, I haven't had sex in a long time. So if you really want to do something for me, and I was horrified. This is my 90-year-old grandma with my best friend. And he looks, because he just said, can I do anything for you? And he looks at me and said, dude, you're not having sex with my grandma. And he looks, and she looks at him. She goes, honey, don't pay attention to him. Waving me off. And I was like, what the hell are you guys talking? Rich, go, get. Yeah. And they both just start, because they knew it was aimed at me, right? The problem is, I'm pretty sure she was serious, right? But it tells you the spirit and where I come from too. It tells you that some of my genes, because nothing was off the table with that woman. We shared a room 19 years. 19 years. I shared a room with my grandma for 19. And when I became a preteen, oh, that was really inconvenient. That sucked. I was 12 years old. I wanted my posters up there. When I became 14, became the coolest thing in the world. And from 14, before 12 and after 14, best roommate I could ever ask for other than my wife. I got so much wisdom laid down on me and so many funny stories. And my grandma, as you can tell, said anything. She didn't hold anything back. Was she a noble person? She tried her whole life. She grew up in a different era. And her two friends, one was Japanese and one was black. And they're my aunts. They're my aunties. And when I was 7 years old, we're sitting in front of a blue chip. If you remember, blue chip stamps is when you bought groceries, and we were pretty poor, all of us, they were too, is you got blue chip stamps and you could go get and choose gifts. And so as we needed stuff, we'd save those blue chip stamps up and go get gifts. So my grandma just runs in to get something, and I'm sitting in the car with my aunties, and I ask them a simple question. So how are all we related? Like, what's the family connection? And they both looked at each other and they're like, are you stupid? And I was devastated to find out we weren't blood. That's how my grandma raised me. How cool is that? She's born in 1911. How cool was it? And those three, they embarrassed me because the shit they argued about and the shit they went after and the jokes they said was not cool. But the three of them, it was. And I learned so much about nobility. And sometimes being noble is not being proper. Sometimes it's just being you. And it's being you with friends. You can be you. You know that you've got a good friend when you're both noble people, but you can be so unnoble when we're around each other, if that makes sense. If you don't understand that, you haven't found that friend yet. I've got it with my wife, and I got it with a handful of men I love, a couple women I love, and my wife. And I would say the connection with my youngest daughter is going noble. How amazing is that? And I hope she listens to this. I hope she does. So you're the sole protector of your nobility, though. You got to keep that protected at all costs. You don't let anybody strip that away from you. You've got to keep that compass going. Don't let anybody knock you off. Okay. If you're trying hard and they keep breaking you down, you can't listen to that person. You got to move on. It doesn't mean you're going to drop that person out of your life. It means you're going to distance yourself a little bit. They might be one of those that's addicted to chaos. And there's a lot of those in our society right now. You got to define your own values. You've got to set boundaries. What are your boundaries? I've got boundaries with somebody I love an awful lot. An awful lot. And when this person gets to my 80% emotional meter, I cut that person off for a few days. Okay, just a few days. And they never know it. And I come back with a cheerful heart. That's my job. Is you've got to set the standard hard and firm in your truth, in your heart, in your soul. You've got to take and choose your supportive relationships. If a relationship's only one way, what's the value in that relationship and how much time and effort you're going to put into it? And then this is something I really struggle with Diane and I both do, is empathy. And the reason why is because we were both brought up with a different generation around us where we were told how to do it. We were told a second time how to do it. And a third time we were slapped on the back of the head. Okay. We weren't given training wheels. We were thrown off the building and you learned to skydive right then and there. And if you didn't, you hit the ground. And so with that, not the best thing. Diane and I probably weren't the combined makeup of being empathetic with our children, but yet without putting a parachute on them, without being a helicopter parent, I'm not a helicopter parent in training over you guys. I refuse to be a helicopter over you guys. It's not how you're going to learn. I have empathy for what you're going to struggle with. I have a heart for what you're going to struggle with. But if you come back to me and whine how hard it is, really? You want to compare notes? I'm going to tell you, and I always say this, I'm going to make suggestions in your business and your life. You're going to make the decisions. Suggestions, decisions, suggestions, decisions. Now, some of you already have made an impact, came up with something that fast, right? It's going to happen with every one of you this week if it hasn't already happened. We just had the prodigy child just did it right away. So, Oscar, Becky, I kind of jumped into this. Any questions, any comments? I mean, I think you've gotten emotional, hot, cool, everything else in this one. Sorry to kind of jump in and go hard. Any input on it?
Becky?
I was like last night you were looking through, and while I was just resting last night, I was looking through quotes and things about nobility, and I found this one that kind of hit hard, and it says, "We make a living by what we get, and we make a life by what we give."
Mm,
That's
mm.
pretty powerful, and Nathan Hart, I noticed over there was asking, is nobility an achievement and an achievement, or is it a lifelong pursuit? And I would have to argue it's a lifelong pursuit because we're imperfect, just like you said, and every single day we have to work on it, I believe. That's just me.
Amen. I couldn't add anything. Becky, it's beautiful. And every chapter of your life, the pursuit changes. So your perspective on nobility and being noble is going to have to, you're going to have to grow. And I don't care if you have the best parents in the world or the worst parents in the world, your instruction book is going to be different because each generation that we have of children changes. We can have this ideal situation of how we're going to raise our children, of how we're going to start our business. But there's so much information out there right now, and there's so much input that I think we got to, in some ways, run the game and learn as we go. And then, I'll tell you each chapter of my life, and okay, my 50s, I'm getting ready to exit my 50s, right? I've had 3 chapters in my 50s, been bitching. And that's why people are like, wow, I turned 60. Badass. Because if it's what my 50s were, holy shit. I mean, in my 40s, oh, holy shit. My 30s, 32, up to 32 was cool. 30, I don't remember them. I just got waylaid with running a business and trying to be a parent, trying to be a husband. And honestly, it got out of hand because, I mean, that was the growth period. And then it took my entire 40s to fix that. Steve Harvey talks about that a lot. He talks about how, he screwed up his 20s and took his entire 30s. Well, I was a decade later. I did a pretty good job of, hey, man, I built a business. I was starting to build wealth, right? And there's been a couple times I told Diane when I met her, man, I'm an entrepreneur. There's going to be Everest and there's going to be the Grand Canyon. And we're going to go from Everest to the bottom of the Grand Canyon in a short time frame. I guarantee you. And we did. And we had miniature versions of that 2 more times. And that's just the nature of being a lifetime entrepreneur. Now, I hope that we can keep you guys from even coming close to that. That's why you're here. That's the value of our group. That's even value of listening to this. Does it have anything to do with detailing? It has everything to do with detailing. Because what people don't realize is detailing is the hands. It's what we're doing right now. That's 10% of it. 90% of it is all this stuff. Because if you don't keep this straight, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It might right now, but in a short time frame, all the other stuff's it will ruin everything else that you're working for. So, Oscar, any input?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm reading out here is, don't let others keep you from becoming noble. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to this, is don't let people stop you. And traveling so much, I get to meet a lot of people. I get to see a lot of different shops, a lot of different perspectives. And one thing I've noticed going into Mexico again for the third time this year and staying out there for a while and getting to meet people and building that network is just choosing the supportive relationships, like you put out here, is being supportive to each other. um, the hate and discontent can take you down the wrong path. And again, it just,
Mm.
like you said, after a while, even you start whispering or we start whispering things. And being being a guest over there, I definitely see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And really choosing those right relationships when I get out there. And even here is just I see it a lot. And one thing that you hit with me is the social media portion of it. It's so easy to get wrapped up on all that, the social media piece of it. And I think that has a lot to do with choosing what you like, who you want around you, who your circle is. Me, I keep my circle tight. I don't really get involved in everything, but traveling with Joe out there in Mexico, like that's someone that I look up to because we have a lot of conversations like this while we're driving 2, 3 hours from one city to another. And this was one of the topics that came up as far as don't let others keep you from becoming noble. Is we've had this conversation because him
Mm.
coming up and what we're doing down there and what we're about to start doing here soon. I'll brief you on that this week. It's gonna be something else. And again, we choose who we keep around us and why we keep them around. And I think a lot of people can't be noble because they're afraid to be noble because of who they have around and they feel they're going to be judged. And honestly, just let go of that. Let go of the negativity and just be you. That's all I got, Rennie.
Wow. Well, you and Becky just said, I mean, I don't even know what to add to either one of those. I mean, I think that's a good closing right there. In my heart, guys, this is how screwed up on my part. I want to, I'm fighting with myself right now. Is Randy, God, don't be so emotional. But on the other side, I think that if I don't show this, is that listen, I'm 5 foot nothing. I'm 5'8". I'm a thick dude, right? I'm strong. I think I'm a pretty tough guy. I used to think when I was younger, God, man, I probably could have done it in special forces. Then I worked with a couple of those guys. I was like, no way, no way, no way. So I've got my limits, is what I'm saying. But I am a tough man, and I was tougher. I was in a situation a number of weeks ago, and Becky said, I'm really proud of you because 20 years ago you would have dropped that guy, and I would have dropped him, and what I would have been stupid, right? But that's who I was in a different life. So I've come a long ways. I'm not sorry for my emotions, is because right now is that I hope by doing this, I'll selfishly, I want to help myself grow and be, man, I want guys and women my age to wake up and show it's okay. And you macho guys, I'm as macho as they get. I'm not, probably not near as tough as 80% of you, but wake up, wake up. Women, whether you're a man or a woman and you're an entrepreneur, you're a pain in the ass. I say that all the time because you're driven. You got all these wild ideas, and not everybody's going to understand you. But we need you. As men, we need you. And when we do get sensitive, don't ever knock that down because we'll never give it to you again. If we show you sensitivity and you get angry with us, we'll probably never show that sensitivity again, or I'll be a long time. When a man opens up as insensitive to you, is please don't tramp on it. As a man that's done that, I shut down for 10 years. Okay, 10 years is that I just not going to do that again. Is that stubborn and stupid? It's just reality. And maybe I'm just an idiot, right? Maybe it's not all men do that. I don't know. I think there's a lot better men. I mean, I'll tell you, Michael Abrams from Your Able, he's my hero. You know, I'm sure he's got his little quirks about him, but I've never seen as noble a man in my life. And I mean that from my heart. I've just gotten to know this guy and I idolize him, maybe too much, but I see him with his kids and I wish I had been him. but I'm trying real hard. And I'm going to, as I go into the next chapter of my fatherhood, I'm going to teach them the ways that men like him do it. I'm going to make sure they know that I know men. I wasn't one of them, unfortunately, but I did gift my kids with some stuff. They know hard work. You know, they know dedication. And I've been with their mom for 30 years. Diane and I will never give up on each other. We almost did it a couple times and we didn't. But I will never apologize for my emotions because I'm comfortable with my emotions now. Maybe sometimes they're a little too much now. But I used to be on the opposite scale, is that I could be a little mean at times. When Air Force One first started happening, we started bringing people on. It's even Bobby, who now, co-manages the project. He goes, "Oh man, you used to get honest, man. There's a couple screaming matches, back in the day. I don't do that anymore." Right. And I like this guy a lot better. But Becky, the input was amazing. Oscar, amazing. All of you guys get busy. But Oscar, good to see your face. You actually look really good. You don't look tired. You look pretty rested. You look happy. You look happy.
I slept all the way, both flights, and pretty much as soon as I got home yesterday, I got about 12 hours of sleep. So
Good. Well, go sleep some more, man, and just relax. And
I'll be up there early tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Well, don't do too early. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. So, all right, guys. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. And I hope that my goal on this whole podcast, don't share it. I don't care if you don't. I want one of you to get something out of this. I hope that we impacted one person with one little grain of gold today. I hope that we got to you. I hope that we open your eyes up, and I hope that it changes maybe your day just a little bit. I don't care. I don't profitize from this thing. Matter of fact, I'm probably criticized more than I am because it's not about detailing. And for superficial people that don't get it, I don't care. You don't like this, that's one thing. If you love it, I like to hear it. I love to hear it if it changed your life, and it changed your day. And if there's one person, I dig it. And that's all I want to do in my life. One person at a time. 500. That's my goal. If you want to know what that 500 is, ask me sometime. We're out of here. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, tomorrow night, PPF, we're going to talk about window film, flat glass film, and PPF and how you should be making money at it. Real money, not bullshit stuff, and not where you have to go to, 500 days of training and spend $30,000 to start making it. We're going to talk about 2 or 3 days of training or a 5-day training where you can make money in all aspects of the window film industry. So join us tomorrow night, 5:30. We've got the signups are all over. If you want to sign up direct, Becky at detailingsuccess.com. She'll send it over to you. Notice how I didn't give you mine. And then we'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. Oscar, we'll see you tomorrow. Becky, we'll see you in 5. Let's go take and correct some paint, guys. Take care, guys. We'll see you later.
Right up.